Seed genetics and technology are arriving at the farm gate at a very rapid pace these days. On this episode of FieldLink, we catch up with two Helena experts to discuss how the implementation of the Future Plot system across the United States is helping Helena sales representatives better position new seed genetics and technology on their customers' farms this season. Plus, Jody Lawrence joins us from Nashville to discuss the wild ride that we're having on the commodity markets. Stay tuned for this episode of FieldLink. And welcome to FieldLink. I'm your host, Bill Smith. And on this episode, we're going to focus on seed. And we're excited to announce a new system coming forward from Helena. It's called Future Plots. And joining us today on this episode is the Director of Seed for Helena, Josh Byford. Josh, welcome to FieldLink.
Thanks for having me, Bill. It's always a great opportunity.
Awesome. Looking forward to sharing your story about Future Plots. And also joining us from Des Moines, Iowa, is Matt Scuffham. He's one of our seed managers up there. Matt, welcome.
It's great to be here, Bill.
Guys, we're going to talk a little bit about a new product that you're launching, a new brand, if you will. Josh, let's talk a little bit about Future Plots and what Future Plots bring to our customer base.
Certainly, Bill. So we're really excited about our Helena Future Plots. We did implement this strategy across the company, so across all four business units where we do business in 2025, but we're really looking to expand that scope and really drive this as a key part of our Helena seed strategy with our Future Plots. And simply put, Bill, Future Plots is Helena's take on the traditional variety trial or hybrid trial that is fundamental to the seed business. We just approach that. We approach that with these Future Plots just a little bit differently than most do with a standard plot in the seed business.
We do have a unique approach in the seed business at Helena, Josh. Why don't you share with our listeners on why Helena is different when it comes to seed? We don't have our own Helena brand of seed, do we? We lean on our suppliers to bring us the latest in genetics.
No, Bill, with the ever-changing landscape within the seed business that we see today, Helena takes a little different approach. We support the products and the brands and the innovation that the global R&D manufacturers are able to put into the pipeline. And we really feel like this puts us in a unique opportunity with the customer to look at, analyze, and determine what the absolute best need is for his or her acres. That's going to make them, the most profitable and extract the most value out of that seed purchase.
That's really interesting. And Josh, Future Plots are going to be a little bit different no matter where you're at. Whether you're in South Dakota or if you're in Mississippi or if you're in California, they're going to look a little different, but yet still have some of the same philosophy, correct?
Absolutely. So, the geographic diversity that we have here at Helena is a strong point to what we can bring to the market. And while the look and feel and the objectives that we look to capture out of those Future Plots will be the same regardless of where you are, having that local flair, that geographical diversity, we have to factor those into our Future Plot strategy because we want to bring our customers that are in those local geographies valuable, real-time local information. And that's the exact spot that our Helena Future Plot strategy fits in.
And Josh, those Future Plots, when we talk the name Future Plots, we're not looking at germplasm that's necessarily been on the market for 2, 3, 4 years. We're looking at germplasm and technology that's maybe here today, but technology and germplasm that's coming out maybe in a year or 2 or even 3 years out.
Absolutely. And that's really the key differentiator for how we implement our Helena Future Plot strategy is you're absolutely right. The standard touch plot, the standard seed plot has typically a lot of what we call industry standard products. There's a high likelihood our customers have planted those products previously or are currently planting those products. But as I referenced earlier, this seed technology and germplasm space is really moving at a very, very rapid rate today. And what we do with our future plots is you're absolutely correct. We look to place next year's big product into those future plots so that our agronomists, our seed specialists, our customers can get their hands on, touch, feel, see how these products respond in these local geographies so that when it is time to make a decision on a new product, we've got 1, maybe 2 years of information and can really help those customers place these products in the right spot.
That's awesome. Future plots, Matt Scuffham. We'll transition to Matt Scuffham up in Des Moines. You cover most of the Corn Belt from basically Ohio to Colorado, Canada to Kentucky. Matt, how are future plots being positioned in the Corn Belt and the Midwest? And I guess my follow-up question would be, how's that going to impact your market?
Yeah, Bill, great question. So we've had plots up here for years and probably a couple hundred. And as you guys alluded to before, a lot of those plots were industry standards, products we'd seen for 5 or 6 years. And, we got a pretty good comfort level with them. And so the goal is the 13 or so states that we have up here, I think it's like 54, 55 plots we got in this year where we're really trying to get those new products in there. And as Josh alluded to before, a grower might have planted a product for 3 or 4 years and right, wrong, or indifferent, we feel that there's a new germplasm pool, there's a new trait that they should try. And so there's a little bit of angst there of, it's been my best hybrid for 3 years, and now you're telling me you have a different product that you want me to plant. And so what this does is this allows us, as Josh alluded to, is for our salespeople, our customers to see these products for a year or two. And it's really our opportunity to experience and showcase those new traits, that germplasm that they haven't had in their own fields yet these plots are in their backyards. They may be even on their farms. And most of our plots up here this year are on customers that are enrolled in our whole farm. And so we understand what the soil type is out there. We've got soil fertility out there. We've taken tissue samples. We potentially have multiple years of yield data. So we know what that yield environment is there. And so it gives us a significantly better understanding of potentially how those products would perform based on what we've seen out there in the past. But we get those new ones out there and we can kind of compare them against the historical trends, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really exciting in the fact that it gives our sellers the confidence to position these new traits in germplasm with the customers that don't want to give up that product that's been the best on their farm. And so we farm ourselves. I've got an uncle that I think he's 78 or 79 now, and every year he just cringes when he goes, "What are we going to plant?" And I tell him what we're going to plant, and he goes, "Well, I've never heard of those." And so he's going to be the first one to go out to the plot. We put one on our own farm this spring just so I could take Uncle Rod out there and he could see what we're going to plant in 2026 or 2027.
Wow. And Matt, that's a huge jump for a lot of producers to think about as far as, I guess, transitioning to new germplasm. And it's coming faster and faster these days than it ever has before, has it?
Yeah. I mean, it gets a little spooky when you open up that seed guide and there may be a third of it that you've never seen before. And if you go back and you look at what the Cortevas and the Bayers, et cetera, are doing, the capacity for them to view potential new lines of corn, they used to do maybe 1 million lines in 10, 12, or 15 years, and they can do 1 million different lines or products in potentially 6 months. And so the breadth and scope of what they can bring to the growers is, it's somewhat hard to get your head around. And so they take 1 million lines and they pare it down to, the best 6 or the best 12. And that's why we continue to see our yields go up. That's why we see the concerns around drought, and yet our yields are really good. Or you see some of the stresses. Again, this year we've had a lot of stress. It's been too wet, it's been too dry. We've had extreme heat here in the last week to 10 days. But my guess is again, we'll have some of the best yields on our customers' farms we've ever had because of the ability to bring new things out so quickly.
Josh, the industry's moving so fast, as Matt pointed out. Technology's coming so fast in terms of bringing new germplasm to the marketplace. Of the suppliers you were working with, we're working with many. Do you have a feel for how many, specific hybrids are going to theoretically be new on a typical given year these days versus maybe 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, Bill, and that's a great question. An exact number would vary by vendor, but it's pretty common, Bill, to see 20 plus new hybrids a year per supplier,
Mm-hmm.
per major supplier there. So, when you look at that number on top of an existing portfolio that products may be 1 to 4 years old, you can get some pretty robust seed catalogs, as Matt referenced. And along with the future plots, that's what our seed specialists and our seed managers, that's what they're kind of tasked to do, is to understand those products, understand how they work and how they perform, and really help and coach our salespeople how to effectively take those to our customers and position them in the best agronomic fit.
So, Josh, kind of what Matt was referencing to, the future plots gives us the ability not only to capture data where we pile that up with our, line it up with our agri-intelligence data that he referenced earlier, but it also is a major tool for us to coach and train our seed sellers.
Absolutely. That's the data that is generated from those plots are extremely valuable to what we do here at Helena with our seed business. But it could easily be argued that the time spent in the fields with our sellers, with our agronomists, with our customers at times, learning these products, seeing how they react to different environments, different soil types, different management practices, that's where the real value comes from. We all know in the agriculture business, we love to see and feel and touch things. And this is an opportunity for us to do that. And the key point there, and Matt kind of alluded to this, we're talking about future products and products that are going to be on the market in the next year or two, but we're doing test plots with what's going to be commercially available. We're not getting into the space of a product that's 5 years out and it's under an experimental number. Most of the products that our customers and our salespeople will see in Helena Future Plots, they have their commercial name already, so they'll be able to attach that name and that performance to the actual product.
So these are real products that are probably going to hit that local market within a year or two.
Correct.
Yeah. Matt, how are you utilizing future plots to, I guess, help better educate your sales force as well as your customers today?
Yeah. So, we planted most of these plots kind of last half of April, the first half of May. And ever since we got out there to get them planted, we're trying to get out there once a week, once every 2 weeks, and really trying to make those observations so we can tell the story that the product has throughout the year. And we did have some cooler conditions after a few of these products went in, and it was interesting how you could pick out the one that was maybe a 2 for early season growth, where on a scale of 1 to 5, potentially 1 was the best. And so you saw the 2 really shine versus 1 may have been a 3 or a 4. And so we've been out taking those observations. I'd say 95% of them seem to hold true, but there was a few in there because of the environment we planted them in or the conditions or whatnot. I was like, ooh, maybe we better be a little bit careful on this product when it comes to planting in cooler, wet soils, or potentially it was a reduced tillage situation. And so we've been doing that throughout the year. We're into pollination now, and so we're out trying to evaluate that. But along with that, we're starting to scout for disease. I was walking a plot the other day, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, we got some gray leaf spot out here. Pull up the scores, and sure enough, it's a really good hybrid, but one of the concerns was it potentially could have some gray. And so those are the things that we're trying to evaluate and learn so that when we position these products with our customers, we can say, hey, by the way, in the plot this year, we did see gray probably sooner than some of the rest of them. Do you intend to spray a fungicide, or potentially this isn't a good corn on corn hybrid, or a place where you wouldn't want to place it where there's a history of gray. And so we've been trying to do those things throughout the year where we can go back to the customer and we have that first hand of, here's how we believe it'll perform in your fields, and here's the best practices for you to have a successful 2026 with it.
Matt, what I'm hearing you tell me is it's a lot different than just having, I work for XYZ supplier. I've got my plots out here, so to speak. You're looking at some of the best from a fairly wide range of suppliers. How many suppliers are represented typically in some of your future plots in the Northern Corn Belt?
There's probably 3. There's a couple with 2, but when you really start to look at the germplasm pools, there's really 3 of them out there, and for the most part, all 3 of those germplasm pools are represented on the corn side. On the bean side, again, you get 3 or 4 if we're going to be realistic about things, and so it does give us a good chance to compare all those, and we've tried to be fair that there's if there's 12 products in the plot, there's 4 from each, and so it does give us a good chance to see the best of the best.
Yeah, you really do get to stack them up, and more importantly, correct me if I'm wrong, but it gives our seed sellers the opportunity to see how that specific hybrid's performing in that specific environment this year. And, you touched on it. How should we treat that hybrid? How should we utilize that? Where should we position it? What products might impact the yield of that? Maybe we need a little light nitrogen later on in the season. This hybrid's got some ability to flex and really explode.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right there, Bill. And anyone can go out and sell a bag of seed. I can go out tomorrow and I can quote you a price, and you can take it, or you can decide that you don't want to. But what we try to do is we try to position a whole farm opportunity. You take our precision program and you take what we learn in the future plots, and you take some of our HPG products that we have out there, and you combine all those together. We're trying to get you the most yield, but we're also trying to get you the best return on investment. And I think corn was up maybe 5 or 6 today as we record this, but it's been down for the past, probably 2 or 3 weeks. And so as I farm a little bit on the side myself, it becomes important of, did you select the right product? Did you treat it appropriately? Did you economically treat it to get the most bushels? Because things have gotten a little tighter than they were maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but ultimately we want to sell you a whole acre plan, a whole farm plan, not just a bag of seed. And the future plots are kind of step 1 is you decide what you're going to plant out there, and then on the backside we come back around and we do the best job we can to work with you of how do you treat that product that you bought, whether it's a corn hybrid or a soybean variety, to get the most bang for your buck and to get the best return on the investment that you have out there.
Yeah, let's try some transition, Josh. Josh, let's peel this back a little bit further. We've talked a lot about future plots and, talking to Matt, certainly we've got corn and soybeans represented, but future plots are more than just corn and soybeans, correct?
Absolutely, Bill. So we, like I said, we implemented future plots across all 4 business units that we operate in, coast to coast, north to south. And look, that crop diversity is pretty wide as we go across that spectrum. We range from alfalfa and canola through cotton, obviously soybeans and corn. And we even have some teams there that will get into the grass market, the wheat, even at times our rice market, where we have the opportunity there. So yes, it's very, very diverse, and it really depends on where you are standing in the U.S. But regardless of the crop, we still want to be able to provide our customers and future customers best in class service when it comes to making that seed choice.
Josh, you referenced it. We're expanding, really all parts of the U.S. And we're really into fully engaged across the U.S. Year one here. Uh, Roughly, give us an idea of size and scope of how many future plots are present today, and what's the future look like for future plots.
Yeah, Bill, the latest count I got was across the entire organization, a little over 300 total Helena Future plots. And that's going to span, 25 to 30 plus states,
Wow.
which is, we talk about being first year and how we're going to scale this thing some. It really gives you a sense of comfort seeing the footprint that we were able to get on, just in year one. At Helena, we don't have a target number to achieve over time, but we want to make sure that our locations are engaged with our seed specialists to fit those local geographic needs. So yes, the total numbers will go up. The states that are serviced will continue to go up, but we really want to make this thing a catered, customized plan and an approach to the market so that we're providing our salespeople and our customers exactly what they need to service those acres.
Josh, you're in a very unique role where you get to work with multiple, suppliers across, the industry leading suppliers of germplasm. What are suppliers saying about future plots?
There's a ton of value there for our suppliers as well, and we haven't talked much about those guys. As important as they are to continuing our germplasm and the gains that we're seeing year over year, future plots are allowing our suppliers to. They even get engaged and involved some as they see these products 1 year out from coming to market. Quite often, the first year or the introductory year, the supply is so low on some of those products that they don't ever really get to see and feel these products very much.
Mm.
We will engage with those guys at the local level, and they'll have an opportunity to get out on these plots as well, and really gain some of the same exposure that we get.
Yeah, I would think, as a supplier rep, what you pick the brand, a Bayer rep, a DeKalb rep, whoever it may be. What a great opportunity for them to see their products in action. But then you start to layer, as Matt alluded to, the agri-intelligence platform on top of it, and maybe some of those unique Helena products from the Helena Products Group on top of it. That can better educate them on how some of this germplasm can really perform in that local situation.
For sure. And we talked about our unique approach with our Helena Future Plots when we started the podcast off, Bill. And that is a unique approach. To me, the compelling story for really a why Helena in the seed business is the agri-intelligence platform. It's the general agronomic input and expertise that we can provide. And it's our Helena Products Group portfolio and suite of products that can really push that seed to its, to the best of its genetic and environmental ability in a given year. A lot of people can sell seed, and a lot of people do sell seed. We think in terms of really pushing that seed to its potential and helping our customers improve their return on investment. When you look at the level of understanding that we can get about what's going on in the soil with our agri-intelligence platform, what's going on in the actual plant, and then analyzing how did these crops yield. We know what we expected, but how did we do so we can measure those results and can make those changes in the fall before we go into the next season.
Yeah, that's awesome. Matt, future plots are fairly new in the Northern Corn Belt this year. You're rolling them out this year. What's the feedback been from your seed sellers, from your seedsmen, all the way down to the folks at the branch? And what are they gaining at this point? And I know it's a little early, but what's the feedback been like?
So the feedback's been great, Bill. To be honest with you, at first our sellers like, man, we got to put in an additional plot. But once they saw the products that they were going to get to see, some of the new traits, as Josh alluded to, some of these products are pretty hard to get. A supplier may just have a few bags. And to the credit of the suppliers that we work with, they got us the best and the greatest and the latest stuff to put in there. And so it's been really good and to see them get out and to do the observations and to take the pictures and then all of a sudden start to realize, wow, this really is a step change in emergence or early season growth, or as we get into some of the diseases now where we may have had some concerns with tar spot or white mold or phytophthora or something like that. And for them to be able to see that the score really did go from a 4 to a 2, or it went from a 7 to a 9. And so their ability to see that throughout the year, to confidently go to their customers and be able to talk to them about that, or in some cases, they're going to take their customers out here. We're going to start field days here in probably a couple of weeks. And then for the next month to 6 weeks, they're pretty excited to take their growers, their customers, their prospects out there to showcase these things. And so while there's always a little angst when there's change, I think this has been a really positive change, and there continues to be more and more excitement around this.
Matt, there's got to be a lot of energy, as you alluded to, when a future plot, let's just say, gets a little bit stronger nod than your typical seed corn plot because of what you and Josh referenced. You're getting some of the best, the hard to get new stuff, but you're getting it, and you're able to see it, feel it, touch it, and watch it grow during that season. Boy, that's got to be exciting for your folks.
Absolutely. It's always fun. The true seeds people, they live in the fields. They love to get in the plots. And so their ability to do that in our own plots, not to go to a supplier's plot or a research center where you go there and, man, it is flat and black, at least up in this part of the world. And
Sure.
They've got all the ends mowed and, it looks super pretty, but that's not the conditions. That's not the environments that we necessarily plan into. So these plots are out in the real fields, the real farms, and they were planted for the most part by our customers. And so there's a real truth to that versus you go to the research site where they may have a irrigation. They've got, 6% organic matter. They've got P and K that's like through the roof, versus these are out in a real farm in a real field.
Real world situations for real world results. And that's what we're looking at for future plots. Josh Byford, tell us a little bit about how you mentioned this is the first year we've rolled out future plots nationally, but they've been around in certain parts of the country for, several years and been extremely successful. How have local branches utilized the data to help sell seed and position it on growers' farms locally from the past?
Yes, you're absolutely correct there. In certain geographies, we have anywhere from a couple of years experience all the way up to 10 to 12 plus years of experience with this strategy. And I can tell you firsthand experience because I was in one of those geographies as a retail sales rep, and having access to local seed yield data and agronomic data. And by local, I mean in the county, down the road. This really, really gives an agronomist or a salesperson so much confidence when they're trying to help those customers make planning decisions. And you take what we generate with our future plot in that particular local geography, and you can combine that with maybe something that the suppliers are able to provide that they've seen from those products, something maybe the university has seen, combined with maybe you reach out a little further and grab a future plot result from somewhere else in the state that you reside in that matches what your customer or what your acres look like, from a soil texture, soil type standpoint. And then you can really build a pretty compelling story of why you make the decisions that you do going into the following crop year.
That's awesome. Josh, you talked a little bit earlier, and so did Matt, talked about our alignment with Agri-Intelligence, our digital precision ag platform at Helena. How do you foresee, moving forward with future plots, the integration of those two partnerships working forward?
It's a driver for us at Helena to fully understand what is going on in that environment from the soil up. Okay, from the soil to the tops of the plants, and then during harvest and post-harvest. It really opens up Pandora's box there as to what's going on. What kind of fertility levels do we have? What's our drainage level? Where are our drainage levels at? what is the plant doing in season through extractor tissue samples. And then when you get into harvest, through true yield, we can really take an advanced look at those yield maps. And not only that, but we could take those yield maps and dive deeper and say, this area of the field did not yield like the rest of the area of the field. Let's look at some of the soil related data, some of the environmental data, and determine, does that tie back to a specific cause that the yield is lower over here? And typically we can make a pretty good judgment call on what the limiting factor was on those lower yielding areas.
It's just amazing, Josh and Matt, how many data points through Agri-Intelligence we'll have in future plots and pinpointing specific things, whether that hybrid's reacting to early season nitrogen, late season nitrogen, how it responds to things like boron. All of that information will be at our fingertips, won't it?
Yes, it will. And every question that a good seed agronomist may ask when you say, what's the best product for my farm? Every question that they're typically going to ask you as a customer, or if it's between companies, the answers can be found within our Agri-Intelligence platform if we have the information on that acre. That's why we see this thing being incredibly important for our seed business and how we understand our Helena future plots as we move forward. We got to have that playbook of what's going on that farm and in that field, and Agri-Intelligence gives us that opportunity.
Josh Byford, Matt Scuffham, guys, I want to thank you both for joining me here on this episode of FieldLink as we share future plots as our new seed strategy and the way we're going to approach the seed business at Helena. And at this time, we want to welcome Jody Lawrence from Nashville. Jody, let's talk about commodities. Boy, it's been a bit of a roller coaster here the last week or so. How are the markets looking today?
Hey, Bill, it's good to be back. Markets are down today because last week's rally off the contract lows for corn and beans, basically December corn off $4 and November beans off $10, happened because a big dome of this searing heat that everybody is under this week was setting in, and some of the forecast when we left Friday indicated it might stay around through the first week of August and even move a little east. While the forecasts have kind of dissipated the heat and the movement east, it's not completely gone, but the market did extract some premium today. Just simply, but at any time that we're on, July 21st, if a weather scare disappears, the market's going to react negatively. And if a weather scare appears, we're going to rally like we did last week. So it's not, to me, this is the double edge of any weather market, because you always want somebody else's crop to have trouble while you make record yields and see prices go up. But this year, since, almost one of the best, everybody I've talked to since 2016, when you incorporate all of the growing area in the United States, that, pretty universally, this is a great crop. And I realize that there are some county by county problems, and even, the regions where there's enough prevent plant to hopefully make a difference on planted acres in southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and western Ohio. I don't want any of those farmers to think that we're not paying attention to them because they're critical acres. It's just that there is a big chunk of this crop that is in really, really good shape. And, all the rain that we've seen, to a point where we've got all this Midwest flooding. Gosh, we'd have to almost go back to 2000, 2001, the last really big, all this rain and the flooding that we've seen. But yeah, unfortunately, rain makes grain on July 21st, and without heat to back it up, that extends into some of the critical parts of soybean reproduction, the markets are going to struggle because there's no trade news either. And the August 1st deadline is only now 9 trading days away. And I think everybody expects the trade team and President Trump to give another 90 days to extension to China, and how he reacts to India, European Union, the other big players that we would love to get trade deals done, is really going to be the early August action in the markets.
Yeah, that's definitely going to probably shake things up. A lot of people on pins and needles waiting for that August 1st date. But, we got some other critical things for growers to be thinking about at this time. As you mentioned, Jody, crops look really pretty darn good from east to west, north to south. There certainly are some pockets where things are a little later and a little wetter, a little drier here and there, but overall, things look great. But growers could really be taking a good look at their overall financial perspective right now when you start to think about crop insurance and where things are all kind of lined out. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there's so many financial decisions that went in before this crop ever got out of the bag. And crop insurance is such a key piece to this. And this year, they added some new bells and whistles to several of the policies that I know several operations, because of good yields, good APH, and some other factors, got almost to 90. And in one case, I heard somebody getting it all the way up to 91% of their guarantee. And if you're going to invest that money, you need to follow it all the way through, because for those areas where you're going to hit your APH and have an average yield, your revenue-based insurance is going to be a critical part of making all the ends meet this year, because the prices are what they are, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody to make a whole lot of money at $4 corn. But then in the areas that have already taken prevent plant, talk several of those today, that they have put together all the columns correctly on whatever acres they were able to get planted. Those are going to be their extra bushels that they store to get over that last hump to break even on the year. But for a vast majority of our listeners who are expecting way above APH, if not all-time whole farm yields, you've got to really balance several equations, because if you have the extra yield on some of the revenue insurance policies, it takes away what they're going to pay you. Mm-hmm. It comes out as, the revenue kick, the extra bushels make up for the low price. And that's where all insurance products, and it's not just farm insurance or crop insurance, it's just like life insurance and playing blackjack. You had a lot of actuaries that always do a lot of number crunching that puts you in a position that a huge majority of the time, those insurance policies are not going to pay out, or they're not going to pay out very much. And that's just the nature of the business. They're there as a life insurance policy in case something, catastrophic happens to your crop. But this year, you've really got to figure out where and what you're expecting your yields to be. And I realize that's changing daily for a lot of people. Get with your crop insurance guy, start doing your day-to-day budget on income and expense, and figure out is now maybe a great time to add that next $5 an acre fungicide application, because I've got record bean and yield potential. Certainly with all the water, there have to be some issues there, but I'm not the agronomist, so I'm not going to wade into that area.
Sure.
But it's, there are just a lot of decisions, and this is a tough time right now, because everybody hates making hard decisions, but this is it's a time we're going to have to make them.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, Jody. Now's the time to step back, take a deep breath, look at all of the numbers in front of you, and crop insurance certainly is one of those components for us not to figure out as producers. And then sit down with our agronomist to make a great business decision for that crop for this season, for right now, as we really get into that grain production time. As we get into the end of July, we're seeing a lot of things starting to happen across the country in terms of corn production, soybean production, cotton, just a lot of it's a very critical time.
Yeah, and the water is helping everybody. And you can just look at the prices and tell what everybody thinks about yield potential and trade potential. No great mystery on any of that. And the next time we get together to do this, it'll be the week of August 4th. And we'll have a lot more information in 2 weeks about if the tariffs were applied on the August 1st deadline. And we'll have a lot of estimates from a lot of private analysts for the August 12th crop report that is the first USDA real kind of empirical data, boots on the ground, and field plots that they're trying to gather their information from. So next 2.5 weeks, going to be a lot of important news. And we'll see what the weather does, because every 3 days it seems to be changing. And I don't want anybody to have hot, dry, and lose the record potential. But we also realize that Mother Nature has the final word in all of this.
Lots of things happening and a lot more coming here in the next few weeks. Jody, want to thank you for joining us here on FieldLink and appreciate your time and insight today.
All right. Thank you, Bill. And everybody stay cool this week.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of FieldLink. To learn more about the newest seed genetics and technology that will be available on your farm, contact your local Helena representative to learn how you can preview a local future plot this season.